Hey guys, welcome back into Yes We Can Outdoors. My name is Mike Blanda, and today we're gonna go over 15 items that you do not need when you go backpacking. And then there's a couple bonus items I throw in there as well, just to throw in a couple extra things. Now okay, so here's the thing, is I am sick. I'm supposed to be resting, and my wife doesn't know I'm out here doing a video. So if she comes out, don't mind her. She told me to get rest, but I miss you guys. It's been, I think, about 7 days. You know how these algorithms work. You gotta be consistent out here. So I just wanted to bring out 15 items. But before we get started, I need to stay hydrated and watch this real quick, and I'll get right back to you. You cannot bring a halfie. Mike, what's a halfie? Halfie. That means when you get back from a trip and you didn't use all your fuel and it's halfway empty, do not bring it on your next backpacking trip, because what happens if you run out? Instead, fill it up with another fuel can. How do I do that, Mike? Flip fuel is a device to transfer fuel from a half can to another half can, or what I do is I buy the bigger ones because they're a little bit less expensive, and I fill up my small one. So I take fuel from this one, I put it in this one, I bring the small one with me on every single trip. I don't bring the big one, and I use this device to transfer it. Cool thing is you can get 20% off this by using Yes We Can 20. Link in my description. So thank you, Flip Fuel, for my viewers, my subscribers, and their discount. So make sure you guys don't take a halfie. Pack up, let's go. All right, now that you watched that, welcome back. I've had my drink of my coconut water, so let's just dive in. Let's get started, okay? Let's start off with maybe a controversial thing. It's controversial for me as well. It's the good old backpacking chair. So depending on the weight, the cost, I think, of a backpacking chair, for me, I'm in my 40s. I love convenience. I love comfort. So for me, this is a needed item. I've switched over about 4 trips or so now on the Ultralight by REI. It's probably the comparable version to the Helinox, but it's much less. But this is actually much more comfortable of a chair, more sturdy. This is one Tigris, I think what it's called, but it's a little bit on the heavier side, where this is only a pound. But this is something you do not need when you go backpack. You don't need a backpacking or a camping chair. You can sit down on a foam pad and find rocks, find wood, be creative. It's something you don't need. For me personally, I bring one, but that's just being honest, but you do not need one when you're starting to go backpacking. You don't need a bladder, okay? So this big tube that comes across your neck and you drink, I don't use this, and what I'm talking about controversial, which I'll get to in a second. You know, you really don't need one of these. If it's convenient for you, that's great. If that's what you use, awesome. But then if you're also bringing other items to bring to drink, it might be a little bit extra weight, just more things carrying. I prefer a water cell. This closes up, folds up, much, much smaller and nicer. This one right here is the Sea to Summit. It's 6 liters. So for me, this is where I put my water in. I'm generally going with newer backpackers, or I'm going with a group of people, and it's just my way of giving back to my backpacking community and friends. It's just nice. It's actually really light, and it's so much easier to share my water. So you don't need a big backpacking bladder. You can bring a smart water bottle. You can just bring, your 3 liter, maybe Nalgene. But this is what I use when I go backpacking. It's a nice little water cell by Sea to Summit. Keep in mind too, all my items are at the bottom of my description if you're interested in any of these items. But hey, that's another one I want to go over. So again, another kind of controversial one, because you don't need this, but my last trip I took it, and I'll tell you why. You don't need a towel. Like, you're backpacking. You want to come back smelling. The smeller you are, the more work it probably did, and your spouse or your loved one or your kids or whoever it might be might realize you actually did something. I did take this to Big Pine Lakes, and it's because in my head I'm like, I'm probably gonna get in that water. I know it's cold. So I jumped in, I cooled off with this microfiber towel. They make smaller ones. So I've only taken this, I think, on one, maybe 2 trips. But this is just really cool, like when you go camping or stuff like that for me. So, but it's decently lightweight. It's not the lightest weight one, but you don't need to take a towel. If you're new to backpacking, don't take a towel. You don't need one. Come back smelly, okay? And on the other side of smelly, the other thing you don't need is deodorant. You don't need deodorant. I don't put on deodorant before I leave the house. That way I don't have like deodorant dried or I need to clean off more. I just don't wear deodorant when I wake up in the morning to go backpacking, and I don't put none on at all. I do bring some wet wipes, unscented, and they're biodegradable. I do bring some of those. I'm a little on the bougie side, but I don't wear deodorant because I don't need this extra weight. And I don't need this extra stuff in my armpit. I want to be as naturally as I can, so don't bring deodorant. But along the side is smelling good, hygiene, yes and no, is you don't need a toothbrush and a toothpaste. Some people cut off their toothbrush or bring a tube of toothpaste. You don't need a toothbrush, okay? You don't need toothpaste. It depends how long you're going. If you're going for maybe 4 or 5 nights, maybe. But if it's just, I'm a weekend warrior guy. I leave on a Friday, I come back on a Sunday, or I'll leave on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday. But you get the idea. You usually do 3 nights, 4 days, or 2 nights and 3 days generally. So you don't need a toothbrush. You don't need it. Again, I bring it every once in a while depending on what other items I have in my backpack. But you don't need a toothbrush. You can get away with it for a couple days without shining your whites. If you wanted to stay white, whatever, bring it, but I ain't gonna fault you for it because I do once in a while myself, but you don't need it. This is uncontroversial. I don't know why, and if you're watching this and you do this, I have been with backpackers, I love you guys. You don't need a huge, like, heavy knife. You don't, unless you're gonna carve stuff or you have something that you're gonna do that's gonna involve maybe some extracurricular activity that you wanna do and stay busy. You don't need it. This is a Smith & Wesson. This thing is actually pretty heavy. I don't bring this backpacking with me. I don't need this. I have now switched, I don't know, over a year ago. I just have a tiny little Swiss Army knife. It has everything I need. It has a knife. I've used this toothpick more than I can even say. I would rather have a toothpick than a knife. And same with the tweezers. I got a little splinter when I was out. I think it was Joshua Tree, and it had these tweezers on me too. This thing is super small and super light. I don't need a whole big, heavy knife. I just don't. So you don't need a big, heavy knife. At the bottom of my description, this is really inexpensive. Just don't bring the big knives. I've seen people with the big buck knives. Hey, if you're gonna use it and if you want the extra weight to get strong and get muscular, not these floppy things, but for you, then hey, by all means do it. All right, so let's get into some more items, okay? So you don't need spare batteries, okay? Whatever you're bringing, make sure the batteries are full. You don't need spare batteries. So in the very beginning, even for me, I would bring my, I have a Black Diamond and it does use AAA batteries, and I brought some extra batteries. I'm like, what if? Like, no what if. These batteries will last like 10 hours of running light. So, and usually I'm using it on a red light anyway, which conserves battery life. So you don't need batteries. Save the weight. You really don't need batteries. And on that same kind of topic, you don't need a flashlight. Like, you don't need this. You don't need to bring you don't need a flashlight. What do you use a flashlight for? To see at night? Well, that's why you bring your headlamp. Your headlamp uses it all. Okay, so you can use this in your tent. You can hang your tent for, the red light maybe in the middle of the night if you're trying to look for stuff. If you're walking on a trail or whatever and you need the actual white luminant light, then you can use it. But you don't need to bring extra batteries. You don't need to bring your flashlight. Just stick to your regular headlamp. That's plenty for you. That's all you'll need. I don't want to throw it over there because that's kind of, I don't know. I just don't want to break it. Okay, now my next one, again, you guys have seen my video. It's probably controversial for you, not for me, because I know how I like to backpack, but you don't need a skillet. You don't need a skillet to cook. Most of the items you'll be cooking anyway will be just add water, but you don't need this. I love meat. Wait, yes, I do love meat. Okay, let's just keep it at that. I love meat. I bring steak almost every first night just because I love a good, warm, healthy, just like good meal with potatoes and corn. So when I go backpacking with friends, we all bring an item and we just kind of share the weight, but we get to share all this amazing food. And everyone knows I bring my trusted Jetboil skillet, but you don't need it. You do not need to bring this extra weight. If you are new to backpacking, don't bring this. Just stick to boiling water and having some dry meals or some top ramen for now. You don't need this. And if you come with me, I'm already gonna bring it because you know I love meat and I'll bring it myself, but you really don't need this, okay? Save the weight, you don't need it. Okay, so here, there's a few items here. You're like, well, you don't need a boiling kit? Yes, you need a boiling kit. / plate, yes, you bring this, but you don't need a plate. But Mike, how am I supposed to eat? Well, you don't need a plate, okay, and I'll tell you why. So you don't need a plate and a bowl. You need one or the other. So if you bring a bowl and you bring a plate, you're kind of just wasting space and extra weight. I love the Sea to Summit because this is a plate and it pops out to a bowl. And on the other side of it, it actually is a cutting board. So it's really nice. This is what I use. It's everything I need. This is the only thing I bring when it comes to my eating utensils. Well, eating on a plate or a bowl anyway. The link will be down in my description as well. This thing is perfect because if you're boiling water and you're making, let's just say, some like top ramen or something, you can just eat it out of the pot, right? You can just use your fork, eat it out of this. Or if you have dry goods, you add your water in here and you pour your water and you seal it up and you eat it out of this. You don't need to bring a bowl and a plate. So leave the plate and the bowl at home, consolidate, just get one item. That's all you need. Okay, now we're on the topic of this. I don't know what I can say to convince you guys when you guys are going backpack, especially for new people. I think for some of the experienced guys, we're okay. But even me at times, I might bring maybe extra like oatmeal or something, but you don't need extra food. Plan your food, bring exactly what you need. Starving when you're out there for 3 days. So leave the extra food at home. Like I know in the very beginning too, I'd bring 2 extra meals and I never use them. And half the time I'd even have extra food too. So you don't need all this extra food. You know, I might need this as a snack. I've had this thing for 6 months because it expires like way in the future. When does this expire? When does it use? Oh, it expires the end of this year. So I still got some time, but I mean, you don't really need extra food. Just bring what you need, save the weight, and you just bring what you need. That's all I'm trying to say is trust your instinct. Actually, no, don't trust your instinct. If you watch any other videos of other backpackers, they're gonna say the same thing. So just keep that in mind. We're not out here to steer you wrong. You don't need all this extra food and extra weight. Just don't do it. These aren't the steaks I use, but the other ones are in bags and stuff packed with, but you don't need extra steaks. You don't need extra steaks. And I'm talking about tent steaks because even for me, when I bring steak to eat, I usually have leftovers, and you don't even need leftover those kind of steaks, but you don't need extra camping steaks. Don't bring extra tent steaks. That's all I'm gonna talk about that. Okay, so again, this is kind of, it might be new to some of us where we wanna be organized in our bag. We wanna have everything in a bag where we know what to do and where it's all at, but you know what, that can be confusing. So you don't need extra stuff sacks. You don't need extra stuff sacks. So I bring my poop kit. It's red. It's on the outside of my pack, so I know where it's at. I do keep everything in here. I keep, you know, my trowel and my toilet paper and sanitation wipe. I bring wet wipes. I do. I don't like a dirty butt. But you don't need this extra dry bag in this, and you put your ditty bag full of stuff in this, and oh, and then maybe to blow up your mat, you have this big old bag that you carry full of your stuff. Like I've used this when I first bought my pad. I never taken this on a trip. It just sits in my garage and doing nothing. If you do want to use this, maybe you can use this as your stuff or dry bag for your clothes, you know? So I'm not saying you don't need a dry bag to keep your sleeping bag protected and your clothes protected. I'm not saying that. You do need to do that. But you don't need an extra bag full of other junk. Put it in your pack. You don't need to have extra weight. And then honestly, when you're bringing extra bags, tell me, are you ever looking at a bag, well, okay, it's not in that one. Oh, it's not in that one. Oh, it's not, there it is. I know you've done it. For any new backpacker, just, you don't need to bring all these extra sacks and bags. You just don't, but do bring a poop kit, okay? As you can see, my my pillow, it's not even in a stuff stack. I throw this in my sleeping bag, and you're like, well, why is it on the table? Why are you discussing it? Because you can use your down jacket. Like, I use the Decathlon Trek 100, which, by the way, is probably my favorite down jacket. But you can use that for a pillow. You don't need to bring a pillow. Again, I'm a little on the bougie side at times, and I need to be comfortable. For me, I do bring a pillow, but you don't need to bring a pillow. And if you're bringing a pillow, take it out of your stuff sack. But you don't need a pillow. Like, it's not absolutely needed or required. You can use your down jacket, especially right now when it's summertime or late or early spring or late fall. Like, you probably don't, but maybe wintertime or something like that. If you're gonna use your down jacket to sleep in, maybe bring a pillow if you want extra comfort. I know some people that don't like pillows, and that's great. I do bring a pillow, I'm not gonna lie. This is the Trekology pillow, but you really don't need it, okay? So here's a really, really, really big one, okay? And I think most new backpackers do this. And it's not at any fault. I totally get it, because you're getting outdoors and it's all new, and you want to make sure you're protected and you have clothing and you have sleeping systems, and it's a whole bunch of information coming at you. And the different trips you go on, the different things you got to bring. So there are certain trips that I go on, I have extra items that I don't bring, maybe like on my last trip, a Big Pine, or maybe when I did Yosemite, I had different items than I brought at Joshua Tree or during the summer or the winter. So here's the thing though, you don't need extra clothes. Like, you don't need to bring an extra pair of pants. Like, you just don't. I don't know why you would bring extra pants. I mean, unless you're going like in snow. I don't have snow pants, so when I went to Yosemite, I did, so I can dry out my other ones that were soaking wet because of snow. But for the most part, like Big Pine Lakes, I didn't bring extra pants. I just brought one pair of pants. So you don't need extra pants, and you just don't need extra pants. You don't need extra like base layers. It's just extra weight. What I will say is this, like Big Pine Lakes, for example, I brought a pair of really light shorts because I knew that most likely, and I brought my towel, that I was going to get in the water. So plan your trip accordingly. Know rough idea of what you want to do in advance, and to make your trip convenient and fun and exciting for you. For me, I love being comfortable. I love my experience. So I knew I had a strong chance of jumping in the water, so I brought my towel, and thank goodness I did, because that water was freezing. In fact, I'll put the link of the video right here. Where's on my left shoulder? I'm new at this. It's up here. My Big Pine Lake trip will be right up here, and I jumped in the water. It's at the very end of the video. You'll see how cold I am. But what I will say is you need to bring an extra pair of socks, okay? Don't skip out on this. Your feet are so important. Darn tough. That was a hair. I have 3 daughters in my house full time and my wife, so I got a lot of female hair walking around my house. So even if I'm trying to get away and like get outdoors, I can't help but bring them with me, because in my clothes I'm always finding hairs. I went a little off topic, but anyway, bring an extra pair of socks. You won't regret it. Even if you don't use them, it's better to have them, because last thing you want to do is have irritated feet, dirty socks that just, I don't know, that just brings this just unwanted like feeling in your feet. It's just, you need to protect your feet at all costs. So whatever you do, you know your feet better than anybody. If you know you suffer with blisters, protect yourself, because your feet are what are going to get you out of the trip, but also bring you joy going into the trip. So bring extra socks. Don't bring cotton. Get some nice wool socks, something to protect, but don't bring cheap cotton socks. It's not going to work. So I went on a little tangent on clothes. Okay, so here's a couple bonus ones. That was 15, by the way. I counted them because I put everything on my phone. I made a list. I actually came prepared, and I made a list of the things that I don't want to bring, so I know I'm prepared, okay? Even though it doesn't look like, because I wasn't counting, I wasn't being, the number 1, number 2. Sorry about that. My apologies, teachers out there and math people. Okay, so it's controversial. I don't know how many times have I said controversial. I don't even know. Maybe 7 or 8. Okay, so you don't. Again, I've talked about this. I bring a pump. I don't bring my the bag that pumps up my mat. I bring a pump. This is kind of up in the air because the one thing I do love this because it's super lightweight and there is a light on it, so I hang this in my tent for light, and I don't have to use all my energy blowing up my mattress. But you don't need it, but it is a nice to have. And the reason why I brought this up is because some of us carry these. A lot of people are doing it now. I personally do as well. But I also want to bring it to your attention too, if you are new at backpacking, you don't need to bring this. You can blow up your pad, but there's benefits on bringing a pump because all that extra oxygen that you're using after a backpacking trip is like you're tired, but all the condensation you're blowing into your pad too, on the long run of your pad, it's not going to be the greatest for your pad. So this is Flextail, link in the description. You don't need it, but it is kind of nice to have, to be honest. I don't backpack without it. So bocce ball, this is an extra bonus. You don't need bocce ball, but I need bocce ball, but you don't need bocce ball unless you're with me because we like bocce ball. So again, some of the stuff I'm leaving at home that I don't need that we went over, like you can bring fun stuff like this. I know a buddy of mine, he brings one item that's enjoyable or fun. He has like a 2-pound boat that he blows up and it'll go like Cottonwood Lakes. He's putting around on his little blow up boat, which is kind of cool. It's really more of like a floating rubber mat, I guess, but it worked and he was actually able to float around in it for like an hour and fish. But bocce ball, it's really fun to have fun. It's really fun to have fun. Yeah, of course it's really, that's why it's the word fun. But you don't need it. It's fun to bring. It's enjoyable. It's an option. And with that being said, I'm gonna have an extra drink of my coconut water because I am so tired right now. Now I gotta go edit this and post it up today because I need to get this video out. But for now, thank you guys. When somebody asks you if you want to go backpacking, what do you say? Yes, we can. Thank you guys. My name's Mike.